Welcome to Ritual Scale Modelling. This is part 26 and the final part of the Hachette HMS hood 1 to 200 build. So in this part, as the name suggests, I'm going to be completing the build, which involves putting all the handrails on, the screws and dealing with the stand. So let's jump into this and see it all come to an end. So now it's time to put on the handrails. These are relatively fairly straightforward to place on. The reason why I'm placing them near the end is, as I've stated before, because I'm constantly moving the ship and it's so large, just over 1.5 meters long, and it's heavy as well. I'm having to switch it over to different positions and everything to work on it. So picking it up, it's quite easy to grab the handrail by mistake and then push down on it and ruin it. Hence why I fit it at this stage. The instructions tell you to put it on at a later date, earlier dates, should say, but I always find it better to do it now. So to fit them is, as I said, simple. All it takes is a little bit of measuring to make sure you've got your proper length. Adding your cement of choice. I use a combination of white glue and super glue for this. Mostly white glue. The super glue is just so that I can get initial bond and I don't have to hold it forever. Each handrail is made up in two parts essentially. You have the main part, then you have this ridged area that fits at the bottom that overlays on the main handrail. Now this is quite good because it gives it a larger surface for the placement onto the deck. Sometimes when it's just a single piece of photo etch, it can be a little bit tricky just to balance it while the cement is drying. To combat that, I generally build up my paint pots and have it hard against the hull so they don't flop over. But I didn't have to do it in this case because of the extra band I'm putting on at the bottom. In fact, here you can see me using a paint pot here just to stabilise the handrail because there's a little alcove that I have to build onto it. The one on the opposite end, I built it before placing the handrail on, but for this one I built it once the handrail was on because I wasn't 100% sure of the positioning beforehand. I'm just working my way to the prow of this ship now. Same principle, just carrying all the way down the line until I get to the end. Back to the stern, before I put the other handrail in, there's a ladder that has to go in and it has its own little platform as well. So that just goes on right at the back. And then of course I can put in the front and the prow and stern masts as well. Again, I generally put these at the end because they're prone to breaking with multiple handling of the ship. And while I'm working on this side of the ship, I'm putting in the remaining windbreaks in. If you remember from the previous video, I said there was more to put on, and this is what I'm putting on now. The stern mast is going on. This fits directly over the platform that the ladder sits in. Next is the placement of the lifeboats. Now, a lot of people follow the instructions exactly on these. I tend to be more free-handed. As long as I get them in roughly the correct position, I'm okay with that. But I generally go with what looks good to me. But it's entirely up to the user, in my opinion, how they should go. Unless you're going for the 100% accurate look, of course. So I'm fairly happy with the positioning, so it's just a matter of putting the last ones in position now. So they're all various sizes, and I made these up a while ago. Next to go on are the main guns, and when I made these up, I numbered them gun 1, 2, 3 and 4, so I knew exactly the positioning I was placing them. And if you notice on the very end gun there, that's the one, if you remember, I put the decal on and painted over to simulate a very faded British markings on there. There's been some discussion whether that actually had it or not, but some aerial photos does suggest did have it, and after speaking to another person who built the 1200 hood, they recommend putting it on as well, so I decided to go for it. So just putting on the last gun now, and that's all the main guns on. So I know that most things or everything is on the actual ship. It's time to do a bit of cleaning up. So taking away anything that's not meant to be there, repainting some areas that have been scratched or bashed about, and generally just making it tidier. And it's not time to put on the screws. I've already put on the rudder, as you can see there. It's much the same as putting on the screws really. These are held on with super glue only. It doesn't take much to make them bond, but they will be fragile. So if you're using the super glue to bond these, just things like this, just remember they're not as good as cement. They don't create a weld, they just create a bond between the surface by the glue hardening up. So it doesn't actually take much for them to be knocked off. And then comes the decals. There's very few decals to go on also. This is just the water depth markings. Now I should say that you can put flags on it as well, the insignias. I decided to leave them off because I can never get them looking right in the decal form. So in the end I just left them off and put on the watermark. And the last thing I do is the stand. So first of all, for the nameplate, and what I'm doing here is I'm just putting the nameplate on the backing board, and I'm just going to hold it, well not hold it, measure it out with some masking tape. And the reason why I'm doing this is to know exactly where I'm going to be putting the name plaque. And the reason why you need to know that is where to put the actual glue. So I'm using white glue here, and I'm just putting it in the area that I've masked off. And then after removing the tape but leaving the original on as a placement point, I then just simply place on the plate onto the backing board. And once I'm happy with the position, just take away the rest of the masking tape and let it sit. And then all that's left to be done is actually placing the ship onto the stand. Now you can, if you want to, you can glue this in position or not. I've just added a little bit of glue so that when I move it, it's not going to directly fall off. So this actually brings the build to an end. I will be showing a reveal video, possibly tomorrow, depending what time I get. I won't tag it onto this one because I'd make it too long a video anyway. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds, or refresh yourself with this build. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of all my future builds that are coming up. You can leave a comment and of course hit that like button. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.